Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on the IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart radio station. I'm your host, Roman, and we have a great show planned for you today. Please don't forget to stay tuned to IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart radio station for after the Drive at 5 for Warrior at 6 p.m. Tonight, my guest is a retired political reporter for ABC 7 News Chicago and a political analyst for various media outlets. Please give a Drive at 5 welcome back to, and I'm going to call you this, and to let people know, I'm going to wait a
minute, you can't cuss on this show.
Sir, Doctor of Chicago politics.
I got a degree.
Doctor of Chicago
goodness.
politics. Charles Thomas, welcome back to the Drive, sir.
Hey, it's always good to be on the Drive, man. This is a great show, and you talk about some very relevant topics. You make people think, and hopefully I can think along with you, and maybe there'll be some knowledge imparted in different places.
Well, let's hope so. Let me add this disclaimer to our listening audience and viewers. The views expressed on the Drive at 5 are not the views of IntellectualRadio.com or iHeart radio station. They are opinions. So we're going to strongly stress that. But first, breaking news that happened earlier today with Colin Powell and his death. And I know you've been in Washington for time to time. Any thoughts that you want to share?
Well, I didn't know the man personally, did not know him personally, but like everyone else, I knew him politically, if you will. I always held him in very high esteem because I consider myself a political independent, not a Republican, not a Democrat, but an independent. So I admired the way he went the other way from most black folks. He was a Republican, but he held to his personal principles. He didn't just toe the party line. I mean, he went away from the Republican Party as much as any, Secretary of State or Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff or someone at that high level. He would depart from the Republicans, and he embraced Barack Obama, for instance. He endorsed Barack Obama, I believe, during the first election. I'm not sure, but he did embrace Barack Obama, and Barack Obama responded to him. And that when he did that, he upset Republicans up and down the line. So he was an independent, and I respect that in him. And he worked for Ronald Reagan. And I have some very interesting feelings about Ronald Reagan and what his presidency meant to black folks. But we can get into that later, maybe. But I loved Colin Powell. I thought Colin Powell as a presence on the American political scene was very necessary. And I think that a lot of black folks can learn a lot from Colin Powell in terms of how we approach politics, particularly moving forward.
Thank you for sharing your views on that. Let's talk about Chicago violence is what's going on. There's another breaking news that's a Chicago police officer recently got shot in the face, and it is not looking so well. So that's just happened a few minutes ago.
Really? I had no idea. I didn't know anything about it.
Before we went on the air, but it relates to this question. Chicago violence, why some believe the mayor is not doing enough to curb the violence. Shootings is up across the board. Robberies are up across the board. And now children are being shot. It's at an all-time high. And some is making history in Chicago. The mayor is blaming Kim Foxx. FOP is blaming the mayor. And the people of Chicago say something got to give here. You say to that.
Let's say we're at a 9 point something on a scale of 10 in Chicago. But the rest of the country is also having a like problem. Chicago has always been worse than most of the rest of the country. So as I think it's a national problem, and I think when we localize it, of course, I mean we're most concerned about what's happening in Chicago, but this is happening all over the country. If you look at numbers from all over the country, um, there seems just to be a spirit of lawlessness everywhere around the country, particularly in cities where black people predominate or have large numbers. Um, but I think it's unfair to single out Lori Lightfoot or Kim Fox um, as being uh, perpetrators of this, or having some larger than normal role.
But they're blaming each other.
They're blaming each other. I get it, and that's probably happened. That's happening in other parts of the country as well, where politicians are blaming each other for the rise in crime and lawlessness in their areas. I mean, you see it everywhere. I mean, you don't have to be a victim of a gunshot or have gunshots in your neighborhood. Have you been on the Dan Ryan Expressway lately and seen how people drive? The craziness on the Eisenhower. I mean, when people are driving, how they disrespect each other, how they are cutting each other off. It's just that this, and if they are armed, can you imagine what would happen and what is happening on the expressways? Um, it just seems like violence is the order of the day right now. People are losing it, and any respect for civil behavior seems to be waning. And again, it's not just happening in Chicago, it's happening all over the country. And I think it is to say that Lori Lightfoot is the reason that it's happening. Well, why is it happening in Cleveland? Why is it happening in Memphis? Why is it happening in St. Louis? Lori Lightfoot is not the mayor there, nor is Kim Fox the state's attorney. So I'm not making excuses for her, but I'm just saying that it is happening everywhere. And we started from a base. If we're at a 9 point something now, we started at a base of about 7.5. So yes, it's gone up and it's out of control, and something needs to be done about it. If you're asking me what, quite frankly, I don't have any idea.
Do you think the blame game is out of control in taking responsibility of what's going on in
That's
Chicago?
local politics. That's local politics.
But
But again,
sometimes you got to put it aside and say, you know what? We got to focus on a real problem and the real issues. Let's work together. Let's figure this out.
I have ideas about why, but they go beyond Lori Lightfoot or anything that Lori Lightfoot or Arnie Duncan, who is leading this outfit called Cred, that's getting millions, tens of millions of dollars in in support, public money in
And
support,
he's considering running for
and
mayor.
he's considering running for mayor. Yeah, yeah. So, but none of this seems to be working right now, and I have to go back to where is it coming from? I mean, where are these shooters coming from? Ask that question. Are these fights? They call it gang related. Well, I don't know. What's a gang in 2021? It's certainly not the same as it was in 1971 or 81 or 91. In 2021, a gang might be something that's focused in a neighborhood, and people are fighting. It's violence. It's they're fighting each other, not over turf necessarily. You may have stepped on somebody's shoes 2 weeks ago, or you may have gotten into it with somebody's cousin, a month ago. And you see somebody on the street, and then it starts. There's a fight. and somebody goes to get a gun because guns are so easily available in this country, and there's gunfire and there's a murder.
Well,
Um,
let's say, for example, it's easy to get a gun, streets of Chicago. And do you think we should basically have surprise patrols on the borders in Indiana, Wisconsin,
please,
border?
really?
I'm just saying. You said throw out ideas.
Well, I know, but I mean,
Let's throw out some ideas there.
guns to stop the guns from coming into the area. Man, there's already guns here. I've always said there's more guns per
But they're
capita.
making guns too.
Look, but listen, man, there's more guns per capita in Downers Grove than there are in West Inglewood. You feel me on that? I mean, they have guns. Americans have guns. This country was forged in gunfire. Get it? I mean, that's what happens in America. They had guns. They have guns. The country was built on guns. How do you think they stole the land from the indigenous people? They used guns. How do you think they kept people in slavery? They had guns. When them dogs went out to catch a runaway slave, the patrollers had a gun somewhere in the game. I mean, guns are what built America. You can't. There are millions upon millions of guns out there. I mean, I talked to a guy one time when I was reporting. I was in his house and he had a old flintlock over his fireplace, a flintlock gun, and he knew what his great 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 grandfather used that gun for in the 1830s. He used it to kill a native person who had walked onto his land and was messing up his crop. So he shot him. That's how they took the land. They took America using guns. They enslaved people using guns. It's as American as the red, white, and blue flag. So you're not going to get rid of the guns. You're going to have to learn to live with the guns. And and people cannot shoot each other when they get angry at each other, when they have a disagreement. When somebody cuts you off on the expressway, you go get your gun. And I'm going to deal with this now. You get out of the car and you confront each other and somebody's got a gun, somebody gets shot. Those aren't gang shootings on the expressway. I don't think so. I think they're angry people.
So, do you think we should do away with, let's say, the Illinois state law that gives people the opportunity to bring weapons into supermarkets, that brings weapons? Should we stop that?
You can't, because there's something called the Second Amendment in the United States Constitution. They take it to court, and the court reads the Constitution, which says you have the right to bear arms, and then suddenly it gets, the right to bear arms. Yeah, it gets argued and debated, and it ebbs and flows. But bottom line, you have a right to bear arms in the United States of America by the Constitution. Now, if you want to go after the Second Amendment, go for it. Then you're being serious. But anything short of that, you're not going to get rid of the guns. Not one. There's too many of them out there. People aren't going to give them up. A lot of people aren't going to give them up. You can do things to control, I guess, but you can't take them away. I mean, there are countries where they don't have a Second Amendment, and they don't have guns in every household. Everybody. I mean, I don't have one. I don't have one. Never have had one. But you know what? I got to think about getting one. You looked at me like I was.
you was
What? I mean,
There's no offense about I was going to the next question until you mentioned that.
But I mean, there are a lot of people, man. I know people. My neighbors have them. Good people.
But that's
I
a
have
different
relatives
story
that have them.
of safety than carelessness.
I get that. I get that. I get that 100%. And a lot of, I mean, most of the people who've been shot and killed by guns did not deserve that under
But do
any
you think if
circumstance. But
let's say if something happens to me, now I'm scared. Now I got to protect myself and I decide to get a gun because if you go through the 4 year process and all that, it's going to take a long time. However, I need to protect myself now. You see what
hmm,
I'm saying? So they don't have temporary 4 year cards.
oh, wait, hold up.
They
Hold up.
don't. Oh,
I just got mine.
you just got
I
yours.
just got a Ford card. Came in the mail last week. I got a Ford card, man. I did. It's right here. I like to show it off, man, because I don't have a gun, but I got a Ford card just in case I need to get one. And I just came in the mail last week. Check me out.
Wow.
Firearm owner's identification card came last week.
Yeah.
Hmm?
And when did you apply for it?
Must have been 7, 8 months ago. And I didn't think they were going to send it to me.
But see how long is the
I
process?
know, but in Michigan, all you got to do is take your driver's license to the police department and they do a quick cursory background check on you. Next morning, they give you a permit to go out and buy yourself a firearm. It's different than that. Now, you might have to wait at the gun store for a couple of weeks for the cooling off period, but Illinois is very complicated. Illinois is to get a Ford card because I got one maybe 10, 15 years ago because I was working and I went to this gun store and the guy at Chuck's gun store told me I can't come in unless you have a Ford card. And he signed me up right there. And I got the card like a week and a half later. So I could go cover stories at Chuck's gun store in Dalton. But this is my second one.
Wow.
But if you travel overseas,
Mm-hmm.
you get a sense of how fragile civil society is.